Hi guys, my name is Michael. In this video, we are going to talk about form control. All the tags you need in creating a form and input tags, the information you need to put into the input tags. And we're going to talk about so much more about tags and HTML form. So let's go right into it. HTML forms are required when you want to collect some data from the site visited. For example, during user registration, you would like to collect information such as name, email address, credit cards. A form will take input from the site visitors and when will post it to a back-end application such as CGI, ASP scripts or PHP scripts, etc. The back-end application will perform required processing on the past data based on defined business logic inside the application. There are various form elements available like text field, text area field, drop down menu, radio button, checkbox, and etc. The HTML form tag is used to create an HTML form and it has following syntax. So I'm going to show you the following syntax that you have to write if you want to create an HTML form. So looking at right here, we have our form, then action, then we have our script, then URL. Basically, if you just want to create a simple form and you're not going to load it online, you don't really need the action part or method. You can just write your form, the opening tag, then put in your the information that the input and the different things you want in your form. Then also you have to put the closing tag. Don't forget closing tag. And if you take note, the opening tag and the closing tag are all small letters. It makes it much easier and better. Form attributes. So now I'm going to explain some of the things we saw in our code, the previous code. Like we saw action. So what does action really do? It's a back-end script ready to process your past data. So which means once you collect your data, you're going to put a link to your database into the action so that all the information will pass into where you want it to go. Then method to be used to upload data. The most frequently used are get and post methods, but among the get and post method, one is better between the two. So if you know, I'd like you to put it in my comments down if you know that, but I'm still going to explain this later because one of them will show your information during the process when it's being sent, while the other will hide it so that no one can easily see your information. So let's move on. Target. Specify the target window or frame where the result of the script will be displayed. It takes value like underscore blank, or it will take underscore self or underscore parent. The blank, so once you put this, so have you ever gone to a website where you click a link and another page opens up in your browser? Yes, so that underscore blank was used so that you don't have to leave that website alone, so that another page can open but the previous page will still be opened. Then we also have ink type. You can use the ink type attributes to specify how the browser encodes the data before it sends it to the server. Possible values are application /xww form. This is the standard method most forms use in simple scenario. Then we have the multiple /form data. This is used when you want to upload binary data in the form. HTML form control. There are different types of form control that you can use to collect data using HTML form. There's text input control, checkbox control, radius box control, select box control, file select box, and hidden control. Then clickable button, then submit and reset button. But there's some that you always use anytime you're creating a form, like text input control, where you can use this when you want to collect first name and last name. The check box control or radius box control can be used if you want to differentiate between genders, or you have a set of list of questions you need to ask. You can use either the checkbox or the radius box for it. Text input control. There are 3 types of text input used on forms. We have single line text input control, we have password input control, and we have multi-line text input control. The single line text input control is usually used when you're going to when you're filling a form and you're only going to use one line. So when you're using when you're collecting names, first name, last name, just a single line information. That's why you use a single line. Then we have the password. That's when you're putting your password into a form. Then we also have the multi-line text input control. The example of this is text area. This is used when the user is required to give details that may be longer than a single line sentence. So maybe like when you're writing a comment or you're commenting on a page or a website, text area can be used for that. So let's go in much deeper. Single line text input control. This control is used for items that require only one line of user's input, such as search box or names. They are created using HTML tag input. Now I'm going to show an example underneath, so let's go. So now this is our basic structure. So we have our document type HTML. So coming down to the body of this text, if you look at inside it, we have our text. We wrote first name. Then after the first name, we now have our code input type equals to text. Then the first name, because in this part we're only collecting the first name. And if you notice it, this doesn't have a closing tag. It's just one tag, doesn't need a closing tag. And also we use our break to separate it, to put one input over the other. Once you see the result, you know why the break is there. The break separates it and puts one code upon the other, because we have our last name too, also collecting our data from last name. And we have input and the type is text. Then we have name, last name in it. If you notice our form, we have our opening tag and closing tag, which is very important when you're creating a form, and it's all in small letters. Take note of that. So this is how it's going to look like. So we have the first name on top and the last name underneath. If you wanted to create more space in between the first and the last name, you put a double break in between the two. The attributes. So we have type. Let me explain what the type does. Indicates the type of input control, and for text input control it will be set to text, because what the data we're collecting there from like if we're creating a first name, the data we're collecting from there is a text. It was a number, we'll put number with a type number in it, because what we're collecting is number, if that was what we're going to collect. Then name, used to give a name to the control, which is sent to the server to be recognized and get the value. Then values, this can be used to provide an initial value inside the control. Size allows to specify the width of the text box, control in terms of characters. Then we have maximum length. It's not really by force you must have the size in your code. If you don't want to impute the size, you could remove that tag, that attribute away from there. Then we have maximum length, allows to specify the maximum number of characters users can enter into the text box. So sometimes when you are on Facebook and you're typing, or on your phone even sometimes, and you're typing and you see the maximum amount of text that you are allowed to input into the text area box is counted. So once it's a mark, when it's over the amount of numbers of text allowed, it will become red. Notice this more on Twitter. If you use Twitter, you notice that if the amount of text passes a number, you can't post, and it will change, become red. So maximum length can be used for that. Password input control. This is also a single line text input, but it marks the character as soon as a user enters it, also created using HTML input tag, but type attribute is set to password. So it's almost like the text too, but the only difference is the type attribute is password. And you notice that if you do try this tag and you try typing inside it, you won't see what you're typing, or you see a dot. That's because the type has been changed to password. If you take a look here, we have our input and we have our type. We have text in it because we're collecting a user ID. Maybe it's your username, which you use to open which was asked of you when you're opening the account. In this case, when you're on Facebook more, Facebook, Twitter, when it asks you for your user ID or username. Then underneath here we have password. So automatically, once you type into this box, you see dot. You won't see what you're writing again because the type in it is password. So this is how it's going to look like, the finished product. And I'm also going to show you a live example how it will look. Now it says this is used when the user is required to give details that may be longer than a single sentence. So we use text area when we want to give more information longer than more than a one-liner. For multiple lines we use text area. You should try it out. So this is the code if you want to create a text area. So we have our opening tag, and in your opening tag we have rows and colons and description. Then in the middle we have enter description here. Now people are going to see this enter description here when they want to type text in. Then we also have our closing tag, and everything are all small letters, so take note of that. to our opening and closing tag. You don't really have to put from role all the way to description if you don't want to. But if you do, you can just go ahead and do that. And I would love you to play around with these roles and colons to see how it affects the text area. So this is how it's going to look like when you're done. Okay, now I'm going to explain some of the tags we saw in the text area. Now, the name used to give a name to the control, which is sent to the server to be recognized and get the value. Then rows indicate the number of rows of text area box. Then the colon indicates the number of colons of text area box. Checkbox are used when more than one option is required to be selected. They are also created using HTML input tag. Put but type attribute is set to checkbox. So which means you're going to set the type attribute to checkbox. So basically, most of the time you're still going to use the same input, but it's the type. You're mostly going to be changing the type and the name. So for a text box, you're going to change the type to checkbox. If you are going to use a radio or you just want to use a text, you change the name to either text, the type to text, or number if you're using a number. So this is going to look like for our checkbox. So we're going to have our input, then type. Then in our type, we have checkbox. Then the name, we have math, we have physics, because that's what we want. Each line is for this input tag separately. One is for physics and another is for math. Then at the side we have the value, which is on. So don't forget, in our forms we have our closing and opening tag, and I'm going to show you how it's going to look like. And also take note that this is what is going to be displayed to people who come onto the page. Math is going to be displayed to them, and also physics. So this is what they are going to see. If you take a look at this, you notice that we have maths and physics on a straight line. If you want the physics to be underneath the math, in between the code of the input tag, you use break to separate it, which means that the physics will come underneath. If you use a double break, it will come underneath and an extra space will come too. So I'm going to explain some of the things we saw in our text, in our checkbox. So we're going to go with type, indicating the type of input control, and for checkbox input control, it will be set to checkbox. Then we have name, used to give a name to the control, which is sent to the server to be recognized and get the value. Then we have the value that will be used if the checkbox is selected. Then check, set to checked if you want to select it by default. Radio button are used when out of many options, just one option is required to be selected, and it's just like the other one. If you want to use the radio button, just change the type to radio after you're going to put in it, and just use small letters all through to write it. You don't have to capitalize the first letter in it. And most times where we see the radio buttons, like if multiple questions, like if somebody's making a quick survey, like if you're making a survey and you want people to tick what they think about a particular topic, that's where you can use the radio button. So this is the code right here, just starting from the opening tag of the form and the closing tag of the form. Now we see we have the same input, and we have type. In the type we have radio. Then the name, we have the subject. because it's like a class. We have math and physics, and value we have math. So this is how you're going to type it if you want to use a radio. This is the syntax, the code you're going to use. So this is how it's going to look like. Just notice we have round boxes for it to tick. So you can take a look and just read some of these. It's basically the same thing. Select box control. A select box, also called drop down box, which provides option to list down various options in the form of drop down list from where a user can select one or more options. Basically, you see this when you are registering for Facebook, Twitter, when you want to choose the country or form. Basically, you see it in a lot of online forms, especially when you're choosing countries with your form, and you see a drop down list of all the countries that you can choose, so that you can specify the one your form. This is so it's called a select box control. So you can either pick one option out of all the options there. So if you take a look at this code, you can see that we have maths and physics. Those are the two options. So to use this, you notice that it didn't start with an input, totally different from the other ones. Basically, we just change the type in it. But for this one, we use option, then the value, then selected maths. So which means maths will be the first one you will see when you scroll down to it. Maths, then you click on it, it will now reveal physics, give additional options you can now click on. Basically, we just have two, and if you can take note, we have our opening tag option and our closing tag options, which has a / in it. So anytime you're closing a tag that has a closing tag, not all the tags have a closing tag. Some don't, like images, like input, like break, like H. It's also a tag which just gives a line. I think like HR, which gives us a straight line. Just give us a straight line. That's HR. It doesn't have a closing tag. There are many others, so just find out which ones have the opening and closing tag. This is how it's going to look like before you click it and you have a drop down. The following is the list of important attributes of the select tag. So if you look here, we have name, used to give a name to the control, which is sent to the server to be recognized and get the value. Then we have the size. This can be used to present a scrolling list box. Then we have our multiple. If set to multiple, then allows a user to select multiple items from the menu. So which means instead of choosing one item, like most times when you see it in Facebook, when you're choosing your country or when you're making a registration and meant to choose a country or form, you can only pick one. Once you pick one, it closes and you now see it there. But if you use multiple, maybe you can choose multiple countries or multiple options basically. The following is the list of important attributes of option tag. So we have our value that will be used if an option in the select box is selected. Then we have our select to specify that this option should be the initial selected value when the page loads. So you notice when we started and we saw maths already there, because maths was selected to be the default selection that will show when you check the option, so that automatically you see maths there. You can now click drop down and see more options. But if you choose select, it will, what you see there is math as default automatically. Then what will come here says label, an alternative way of labeling an option. So that's for file upload box. If you want to allow a user to upload a file to a website, you will need to use a file upload box, also known as a file select box. This is also created using the input element, but the type attribute is set to file. So let me tell you where you can see this. You see this on Facebook when you want to change your profile picture. Sometimes when you change your profile picture, you see it when you go to a site and you need to load your CV, like a document. So you can see this is when you're loading email. Yeah, basically you see it on file where you want to load your document online. So that's where you see the file options like this. So please take note of the syntax, the way the code is written. This is just a basic HTML structure just for this. Okay, so we come down into the body, and in the body we have our form and our closing tag form 2. Then in between the two we have our input tag, input type file. Then the name is the file upload. So this is, if you notice here, it says accept. What we have is image here. So I believe that this can accept images because we're specifying what it can accept, image. Also take note that everything here is written in small letters, which makes it easy when you're coding. So take note small letter, and take note of the closing and the forward slash in the form when you're closing it. Okay, so your example it will look like now. So basically this is how it looks like. You can see something like this on online when you want to upload maybe your CV. You might not see choose a file, you might just see upload your CV. You see it when you're on Facebook or Twitter or any social media where you want to upload your picture, or there's an option to upload your picture. You can also see something like this there. So this is how it looks, and that's the tag you use, a file. So now I'm going to explain some of the attributes that the file tag can take. So we have name, used to give a name to the control which is sent to the server. Yep, already. So we have accept to specify the type of file that the server accept. So you see that accept is choosing the type of file that you are uploading. So which means that syntax to take image file. So maybe if you want to upload stuff like document, it will be different from image. Button control. There are various ways in HTML to create clickable buttons. You can also create a clickable button using input tag by setting its type attribute to button. The type attribute can take the following values. Yeah, there are different ways. I know of two. This type and another type where you only use button itself as a tag, opening and closing tag. So we have our button opening and a button closing. Okay, some of the attributes. So let's go through the attributes. We have the submit. This creates a button that automatically submits a form. Then we have reset. This creates a button that automatically resets form control to their initial values. Button. This creates a button that is used to trigger a client-side script when the user clicks that button. Then we have an image. This creates a clickable button, but we can use an image as the background of the button. So this is the syntax for it. So we have our input as usual. Then we change the type to submit. Then we have the name submit, then value also submit. Then we also have another one here, input type reset. That reset basically automatically When you open a form, maybe like Facebook, when you're registering for your Facebook account, or a particularly online form when you're typing in your values, if you make a mistake and you just maybe you want to erase everything back to what it was originally, when you got there, you just click the reset. Everything will be, all the values that have been inputted before will be erased, and you all have blank boxes throughout. Then you can start re-inputting in your data again. Then we also have input type button name. Okay. Then we also have, basically what you change is this, the type. All you're gonna change is the type. We have submit, reset button, and images. Then the name, image button. They now put in the link to where that image is. So depending if that image is on your system, you have to link it to this. You put the link into this into the source. That's the src source. You put the link here, and automatically the image will appear to the button. Okay. And if the image is online, basically you can use the link too if it's online. You just copy it and paste it here. So this is how the button is going to look like. We have submit, reset, and OK. As you can see, well, hidden form control. Hidden form controls are used to hide data inside the page, which later on can be pushed to the server. This control hides inside the codes and does not appear on the actual page, which means you won't exactly see it when you open the website, but it's there. For example, following hidden form is being used to keep current page number. When a user will click next page, then the value of hidden control will be sent to the web server, and there it will be decide which page will be displayed next based on the past current page. So we can use it to hide some information I can see, but that information is still being used in that website at the back end to give you more information once you click next, depending how the hidden form is being used. I do advise you do test it out so that you can see how it looks. So right here we have, this is a page 10. Then we have input type hidden, so it's the type you are really going to change. Then we have the name, page name, the value is 10. Then input type equals submit, okay, name with submit the value, submit. Then we have our reset button. So take note, this input doesn't have a closing tag exactly, it's just one. So this is how it's going to look like. If you notice, we can see this is a page 10. We have our submit and reset, but do try out this code, play around with it, see how you can, if you remove the different attributes, how it affects it. So you can remove the what happens, I'll remove the value, see what happens. Just play around with it. The more you do that, you're going to learn and know what each attribute does in this input tag. Hi guys, welcome to the live coding. So I'm just going to show you all those things we just learned, how they look on when you start typing them. So come over to file, I'm going to create another file. Click on file, then we're going to save it. So let's come back to file again. Before we created a new file, so now I want to save the new file. Okay, I'm gonna give it a name called form. Then the type. So depending type of data we're working with, well, this is HTML. If we wanted to create a CSS, we'll click here to create a CSS. Say CSS. If we wanted to use a JavaScript, we'll come down and click on JavaScript. But what I'm working on is HTML, so I'll click on HTML. Then click save. So next I have the HTML icon, but this is because I've loaded some extension. I loaded some extension before on my Visual Studio. So for a shortcut, click on Shift and exclamation mark. Could be on number 1 on your keyboard. So Shift and exclamation mark. Then click the first one. Automatically just gives you the HTML structure, so I don't have to start typing document type, the heading, and all the stuff like that. So come down to the body. So I'm going to paste in the form. So right now I'll put in the form tag. So I want us to see how it's going to look like in the browser. So I'm going to open my live server. I just click down here. So this is what it's showing. So I'm going to minimize the page here. Minimize this too. So I can have them side by side. Okay. So this is what it's showing. It's showing the text in the form. So if I erase it, then stop. Notice it's been erased on the browser too. And that's because I'm using live server, so whatever I'm doing in my editor is being changed in the live server. In my web, it's being changed in my browser too. So let's go ahead and test those codes. So this is how it looks like when you're testing it out. So right now you can see we have first name and last name underneath and the break. So if I remove the break, you see how everything will turn out. You can see now coming side by side without the break. I'll put the break back now. That's BR, then less than. You can see that's how it looks like. If you take a look now, here we have the username, ID, and password. How it looks like. Now, if I type the text in here in the password zone, look at how it's going to look. See, it's coming out in dot dot dot. That's because the type we have here is password. So let me change this password into text, and you see what's gonna happen. If I change it to text, I've changed it to text, and I type in it, you can see we have DDD. But if I change it back to password and I go back into it and type, see, that's what we have there. Okay, now I'm gonna text area. So let me show you what that's gonna look like. Paste. And so this is the text area. Let's put some little space between the text area and the password. So I'm going to use break. But another type you can use, just can't remember this time. Break.
Yeah, and now use another break. Okay, you can see we now have a good amount of space on top. So this is the text area where you can now write in your text. And if you look, upon now we have erased the content that's in this text area right here. You notice in the code we still have enter description right here. So it doesn't really affect it. It doesn't affect the main code. It's only affect what's showing on the browser. So typing text, you can keep on typing them. So now if you reduce this colon, let me show you what happens if you reduce the colon. You can see it made the width smaller when you reduced it. So let me also reduce the row. You can see once I put in the row, okay, it became very small. Okay, let me put it back to 5. It's wide enough. When it was, let me reduce it to 3, and you see you have this like a screw. You have to screw up and down. Let's see what happens if we remove it completely. Cut. Just see, this is what you get if you remove it completely. Let me put that back, the row and colon. Paste. Then increase the colon back to 50. Increase the row to 5. You see? Okay, let's try another one. So now this is a checkbox. Automatically, so I can click. When I click the console, I can click the 2. Click 1 and click the other one. So the checkbox, I can click multiple options. So that's it. So this is the radio. I click the radio. So on the radio, we can only click one option at a time. So if I click physics, I try clicking maths, automatically our physics will be unclicked. Okay, so let's try another one out. So now we're checking the select option drop down. So if you look at it, we click on it, we can see math. That's how it works. We can create multiple ones just by repeating this line of physics. Okay, let me copy it, then copy, then paste, then let's copy again, then paste, and change it to, let me change physics to English. Then change the other one to bio. Okay, just leave it like that. So you can see we have more options now. You can click math, I can click English. But that's because we use select. So let's try the multiple on. Click and we say. So this is it. We're using the file option. The file option, you can see. I just clicked on it. And look at it. So give me an open folder where I can now click on what I want to load online. I mean, maybe not online, it's not that connected to the server or a database. Okay, let me click this. Let's see what happens. So this is what happens. It now shows this. Okay, so that's how that works. Okay, so we have this. We have what's testing out the submit reset button and image. While the image link, I don't think it's working properly, so it's not showing well. So I'll submit. Oh, it shows me cannot get script. Okay, let's go back. Then reset. Okay. Okay, then button again. Okay, so that's it. Let's try something else. So this is the hidden control. Okay, so this is the hidden form control. This is the syntax, and this is what is shown on my browser just here, the 10th page. Okay, go back, click on reset. Okay, so this is gonna look on a website on my browser. So it looks okay. So right here, I changed the type to time, and this is what is showing me now. Okay, let me remove some of this excess code. So I change the type to time and click here and look at. So I have the hour, minute, then the day, which we have PM, AM. So let me put AM, then 4, then 3. So that's the time. If you use the time, we also have months. Let me check. Yes, month. So I have month. So if I change the type to month, so you can see I have month. So let's play around with some of these the types you can use in the input. Let me show you. So this is it. So we have button check color, date, date and time. Then okay, it says date, time, local, email, file, hidden. We have images, month, number, radio, range, reset, search, and submit. So those are the other types you can also try out on your own. We also have tel, that's TEL, and search. So try some of them out and see how they look like. And don't forget to try it out. You have to remember your opening tag form, the closing tag form, then in between is where you type in your input, then type. If you want, you can also add a name too, so that you now check your browser and see what it shows. Okay, thanks for joining me today. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you have any question you'd like to ask, please put it in the description in the comment box down. Okay, bye.